Hey guys, it's day 16 of SSSVEDA and Amy has put in the calendar for us to talk about our first car. What was it? How did it happen? What went on? Do we drive now? Well, I will tell you for a fact, I was one of the slow ones. I started driving when I was about 19, or driving lessons when I was 19, which is about 2 years after everybody else in the UK. Most people turn 17 and go straight into driving lessons, and they're on the road as soon as they can get their hands on a car. For me, I was at college, I was a student, I was paying my way. It was a little bit tough, so I was like, do you know what? I don't need a car right now. I don't need to take driving lessons. And then when I got to sort of 19, I was like, okay, no, I need to start doing this now. So I started my driving lessons. I think I had about 40 actually. I don't know if that's good or bad. I'm presuming it's probably longer than most because I was a little bit nervy. But I had a great instructor who used to tell me stories about squirrels who got caught in the concrete while he was trying to pave his backyard. That sounded much more driver related than I thought it did in my head before I said it out loud. But there you go. That's what my driving instructor used to teach me about squirrels. So it wasn't until I arrived in Lanzarote a couple of years later that I actually started to drive, because by the time I finished my test, I'd spent so much on lessons, I didn't really have enough money for a car. And I was a holiday rep in Lanzarote, and none of that crazy stuff. I was a very sensible, responsible holiday rep for families and couples. Thank you very much. I'm sure my repping friends will vouch for me. But no, I had a fab time in Lanzarote, and I was one of the lucky ones who actually had a car and I could drive around the island. Now, my first day, bearing in mind I hadn't driven for about 2 or 3 years after my test, I got in, bunny hopped around the car park whilst driving on the wrong side of the car, and then exited onto the wrong side of the road, only to follow someone on the motorway on which I'd never been before. So that was quite exciting. And then I managed to lose my driver in front on the way home, so I ended up getting completely lost in Puerto del Carmen, and then driving around without my headlights on, to the point where a police officer pulled me over and said, "Estás borracha, señorita?" And I had to reply, "No, I'm not drunk at all. I just can see everything because the street lights are really bright. Yes, I realise now I have to turn on my lights." Eek. That was fun. So that was my first car that I drove. My first car that I owned, I paid about £450 for, which is what, like $600–700? And it was a little tin can. It was an H-Reg Fiesta, Ford Fiesta, and every single week I had a problem with it, including losing the bearings on my petrol cap, so I couldn't actually fill it with petrol. I had oil leaks, I had speedos that decided not to work after a little while. Now, I'm not talking about the small pants that people wear in the sea, I'm talking about the speedometer that tells you how fast you go. So that was quite fun on the motorway, not knowing what speed I was going at. So that got fixed pretty quickly. But then I decided to take out a loan and actually get a car of my very own a few years later, and that was a Ford car, the KAs. And I named her She-Car, Princess of Power Steering, because oh my goodness, what a delight she was to drive after I had been driving around my little tin can. And then after that, I moved to London, so I had to sell my little She-Car, and consequently had 2 company cars along the way. Actually 3, because I changed one on the way. So I've driven a BMW, a Mini, the new Minis, the big Countryman, and most recently an Auris, Toyota Auris. I have to say the Mini was my favourite, mainly because I could tweet and check my Facebook updates while I was driving, which was pretty awesome. But now I'm a pedestrian again, so it is just me and the tube and my little pair of feet. But I'm loving it because I'm getting loads of exercise, my Fitbit is very happy, and I'm making my 10k a day quota. So that's me and my history of cars. See you tomorrow.